hello there, and Merry Christmas, friends.
Hi there.
Lovers. Thank you for joining us for an early session of 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir.
Woo!
We're glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. Just getting my chat up to date here. I want to make sure that I don't miss any messages because I am sending out the peace and love and the goodwill and all that good stuff today on this December 11th, 2022. And it's an early Christmas special. We got a special Christmas event coming. If the person responsible for that is watching, say, we will be with you soon. We will be watching you do your thing. And it's a very special day. This Sunday, December 11th, 2022, the 345th day. Damn, those numbers are getting big. 345th day of this, your best year yet. You have got 20 days. I have got 20. We've all got 20 days left to make that so, to make that happen. There are 14 days until Christmas. Wonderful, wonderful. My Post-it note for the week is all about that.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh my gosh. And if you're already planning, 324 days until Halloween. So there you go.
Yay!
I've already got my costume on.
How many?
324 days.
324 days. Well, it'll fly by.
I don't think I've ever dressed up as Santa Claus for Halloween. How great an idea would that be?
That would be
pretty
a lot of
damn
fun.
great. I think
could be
so.
Krampus.
If I do say so myself. Thank you so much. Let me just double click my chat here. Oh my gosh, yes. My wife's sister, daughter's mother is in the chat.
My sister wife.
There's a long story there that was explained last night. If you missed it, if you weren't at Great Lakes Objectivists Christmas Hootenanny, it was a good night. My heart, my thanks go out to everybody who was there. We have one more event scheduled. Besides the Greenfield Village trip, we're going to have a movie night. If you're in Southeast Michigan and you're not already part of Great Lakes Objectivists, you know what to do. Reach out, become part of that. Otherwise, everybody around the country and around the world, you can just be jealous, and we will share the fun with you. And my chat is also up on YouTube. Good. Good to see my producer is in the chat. That is so cool. And Equal to Reality, regulars from the Thursday and Wednesday shows. Good to see you there. And I'm going to do this real quick. As I say, we got a lot going on today. We're going to have some fun because I didn't want to skip the show altogether. We don't cancel. We never cancel. Last week I did a solo show because Amy wasn't available. I didn't cancel. You were there, and I thank you for that.
I'm here today.
And Amy is here today. Look at this. Is this sweet? Are we sweet?
So nice.
Yes, we are sweet. We're all about Christmas. But on that happy note, on this day, Germany declares war on the United States.
Boo.
Boo. Boo. Hiss.
Boo.
This was the date on which Germany declared war on the United States. If you don't know much about World War II, the United States was already supplying the Allies with all sorts of support and weaponry, but we didn't join World War II until after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, until after Japan dragged us into the war. Arguably, Roosevelt knew that was going to happen and, in a sense, arranged for it to happen. Believe whichever conspiracy you like about that. There's some reason to believe that, yes, he knew we were going to be pulled into the war, and yet couldn't, viably, couldn't initiate it. It would not be appropriate. So in any event, yes, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, we just had Pearl Harbor Day on December 7th, surprised even Germany. Hitler had made an oral agreement with his Axis partner Japan that Germany would join a war against the United States, but he was uncertain how the war would be engaged. Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor answered that question on December 8th. Ambassador Yoshima went to the German Foreign Ministry to nail the Germans down on a formal declaration of war against America. That happened 3 days later on this date, December 11th, 1941. So, in connection with that, we get into a war where the Soviet Union, arguably worse, brutal dictators responsible for even more deaths than the Nazis, although spread over the course of decades, become our allies. And in that regard, on this date in 1969, the Soviets declared nudity as a sign of Western decadence. Trust me, it'll all tie together.
Is that because they all crammed 3 families to a room, and you just couldn't risk being naked in front of other people because you were
Because of
so
the-
poor.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure
You only had one cow to a neighborhood.
part of the problem, yes, they didn't want nudity because nobody was attractive living under Soviet Russia.
Yep.
Yes, the secretary of Moscow's Writers' Union declared nudity as displayed in the popular play Oh, Calcutta, some of you might remember that, as a sign of the decadence of Western culture. This sounds like Putin today, saying Russia is in the right because of the decadence of Western culture. More disturbing, he claimed, was the fact that this bourgeois thinking was infecting Russian youth. This was 1969. This is right about the time
the
when...
sexual revolution. You can't have revolution.
Well, those of us who lived
That's
through the
Soviet.
following 2 decades remember, we talk about how it was rock and roll that brought down the Soviet Union. Now that's a little bit over-essentializing it. It's the appearance of Western successes, Western values, Western happiness that the Russians, the Soviets, had been claiming for decades didn't exist. That the United States had a few rich people because of capitalism, but most of the rest, the poor, were living in ghettos. We were all miserable. And the rock and roll phenomenon, and especially as it came over as video in the 1980s, put the lie to that.
Right.
And the Soviet people declared that they would not tolerate the Soviet government anymore.
Yeah, Ayn Rand always referred to the Russian culture as backwards. And that's
Yes. This Sergei Mikhailov. He was a children's writer as well as a cultural commentator. Speaking at the end of a conference on Russian intellectuals, he also heaped scorn on Alexander Solzhenitsyn, whose scathing writings about the Soviet police state earned him the enmity of the Soviet Russian government.
I can only imagine.
And of course, Solzhenitsyn, writer of the Gulag Archipelago, was one of the people who helped bring the truth out of Russia. Ayn Rand first and foremost with her writings, We the Living being a fantastic
heavy
account in that regard.
Yes.
I mentioned that too because it happens to be the anniversary of the birth date of Alexander Solzhenitsyn.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Also on this date, first we have Germany declares war, Soviets declare nudity a sign of Western decadence. On this date, King Edward VIII of England abdicates the throne. After ruling less than 1 year, Edward VIII becomes the first English monarch to voluntarily abdicate the throne. He chose love.
Yeah, he chose to marry a divorcee.
Yeah. He chose, well, what my text here says, he chose to abdicate after the British government, public, and the Church of England, the old C of E, condemned his decision to marry the American divorcee Wallace Warfield Simpson. On the evening of December 11th, this date, he gave a radio address in which he explained, I have found it impossible to carry on the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge the duties of king as I would wish to do, without the help and support of the woman I love. Wow.
Weren't there also political aspects to that? Their particular politics that Edward promoted or something like that? I'm not entirely sure, but...
The dramatizations I've seen suggest that. He was such a freethinker that it really went against the monarchy in general and not just for these social reasons. Yes. So there you go. Give up the throne for love. Can you imagine?
I can. I mean, if you have never watched the movie Queen Christina with Greta Garbo.
Oh, good point.
And I think it's John Gilbert, I believe. The love interest.
Gilbert's the right name. I forget the first name. Might have been John Gilbert. Somebody will correct us in the chat.
So it's just a great movie. And there's some abdicating of thrones in that movie. and Queen Christina, the movie is somewhat based on historical events. I'm sure that they took a lot of license, with the characterization and everything and some of the details, but very, very good movie. And
Yes, so Germany declares war, Soviets declare nudity, decadence, King Edward VIII abdicates the throne, and also on this date in 2008, Bernard Madoff is arrested in his New York City apartment, charged with the masterminding of a long-running Ponzi scheme later estimated to involve about $65 billion, making it one of the biggest investment frauds in Wall Street history. Bernie Madoff arrested on this date. One of the themes that I brought into my recent discussions on the Ayn Rand Center UK, and if you go to robertnasir.com, you'll find links to all of that. Crime doesn't pay.
No. And also crime ruins people's lives. And,
that's what I mean.
And of course, Bernie Madoff's life.
Even if you don't ever get caught, it ruins your life.
Yeah. And I think that there was some account of him, or, criminals in general who are under that kind of pressure where they can't have to keep piling on the lies. When it's all said and done and they're finally caught, there is a bit of a sense of relief, I can only imagine.
Yes.
But
yes.
But yeah, he went to jail, and
now Daniel, who is commenting from Europe, said earlier, "Why are you naked? And what are you, a capitalist?" And YouTube hid that comment. Until I okayed it, I had to click show. Good. Of course, show this comment. What's wrong with you? So I'm thinking, well, YouTube's getting a little bit sketchy about it. They're getting kind of, given what's going on in the Twitter files right now, you would think they would relax those kinds of warnings. But Jennifer in the chat said, "Oh, stupid Bernie." And YouTube held that one for approval. Stupid Bernie is apparently considered abusive.
Well, they don't want, people to name call anybody, during Christmas time.
maybe
Santa is the one who's, filtering these comments.
Well, I was thinking maybe because the name Madoff was in our discussion, but it wasn't in the chat. Maybe YouTube thought she was talking about Sanders, not Madoff. And really, who's the bigger crook, Bernie Sanders or Bernie Madoff? Yeah. Let's have a Bernie war, or a Bernie... Now folks are testing the algorithms here. Daniel Krause commented, "Stupid Trump, show or hide?" So now I'm going to get all these... it's going to keep asking me, do you want to show or hide?
So that was hidden?
It was hidden. It was hidden until I hit show. Yes. It's so funny. I actually like the way algorithms do this. I argue for this kind of moderation. I don't want to see child porn. I don't want to see all sorts of things in the chat. Every platform, even Parler has to moderate content.
Yeah.
It's just a question of how they're doing it. I think the Twitter files are showing us that the real problem is when the government steps in and says, it'd be awfully nice if you would withhold these particular comments that aren't kosher to our current preferred political candidate.
Right.
Yeah, there really is an issue there. Watching the release of the Twitter files has been fascinating. If you're not already a fan of Barry Weiss, start following her on Twitter, because that is who Elon is releasing the files to. And the only proviso that Elon Musk has given Barry Weiss is that anything she's going to release, she needs to first release it on Twitter. So basically, she has to tweet it first, anything that Elon Musk gave her.
Oh, okay. So it hid my...
Oh, you put in stupid Biden, and it... Yeah, even from you, even from my co-host. I wonder if it would do that if I put in a comment. Let's try that real quick here.
Oh, let's have so much fun with this.
Although, this is supposed to be a really fast show today. So I don't know. I'll just do this one and see what happens. So did that show up, or... Oh, it did show up. Okay. So obviously it's not going to ask me whether I want to show or hide the thing that I myself did.
Algorithms.
Yeah, the algorithms are in effect.
The internet.
Al Gore did create the internet.
Yes, thank you, Al Gore.
Thank you so much for that, you piece of work. So
What else is going on in history or currently?
Well, we wish a happy birthday to Rita Moreno, who we have discussed before on the show. In fact, did a whole episode on the Ayn Rand Center UK, ARC UK channel about West Side Story. Rita Moreno, of course, starring in the film version of that and many other great things.
That's right.
So she turned... Now, what I love about today's birthdays, all four of the birthdays I'm going to mention real quick, are all people who are still alive. Rita Moreno is 91 years old and still going strong. Also, happy birthday to John Kerry. Now, I hear the collective groan out there, and I totally get it.
Does he have birthdays?
John Kerry, well, he's the next oldest before Rita Moreno. He's 79 years old today. Still going strong, if you stretch the definition of the word strong far enough. I still think we would be in a better place. I still agree with Leonard Peikoff. I still believe we would be in a better place if John Kerry had been elected president instead of George Bush getting 2 terms.
Yeah.
I think we would have still seen the same financial collapse that we saw in 2007, but I think the right people would have been blamed for it. You would not have seen the Barack Obama era. You would not have seen the Donald Trump era. Yes, we would have had middle-of-the-road milquetoast Democrats and middle-of-the-road milquetoast Republicans.
Mitt Romney could have brought his binder full of women along.
That's right, and pushed Grandma off the cliff on her wheelchair. It would have... It's strange to think that would have been a better world.
I know.
But that's the only reason why I will celebrate John Kerry's birthday at age 79. Also, happy birthday to Brenda Lee, because I've been hearing Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree everywhere that I go, and I'm not the one who's playing it, but I've heard it a dozen times already. And Brenda Lee turns 78 years old today.
I listened to that today, actually.
Yes.
Yep.
Very good. Well, as they sang in the song Radar Love, Brenda Lee's coming on strong. She is still coming on strong at age 78. And also, finally, also 78 years old today, happy birthday to Teri Garr.
Oh, nice.
Yes, Inga from Young Frankenstein.
Roll in the hay.
Yes, Teri Garr is still with us as well. And that's good because, as somebody pointed out on the interwebs earlier, a lot of the people from Young Frankenstein are not just no longer young, they're no longer metaphysical. They no longer exist. So, fortunately, of course, the producer is still out there, and so is Teri Garr. And it makes me think I need to see some of those old Teri Garr films that I haven't seen since they came out.
Like
you know,
what?
like when she was in her heyday, like Mr. Mom, and even Oh God. John Denver and George Burns.
Right. Christopher mentions...
And she was in Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, he mentioned that.
And I'm wondering how well those films hold up. So I think I need to do, the next time we're thinking, what should we watch? Pick one of those out, put it on. That could be fun. And finally, one more thing. On this December 11th, it is Happy Worldwide Candle Lighting Day. Now, this started out as a tribute... lighting a candle for children who had gone through hard times or dysfunctional families. And now it's just a worldwide day of lighting a candle for anybody, for any reason that you have to light a candle and ponder and provide support or just to celebrate somebody. So it is Worldwide Candle Lighting Day.
Well, that's wonderful because I actually shared on my wall. Actually, I shared it on Kerry, on our friend Kerry's wall.
Yes.
And it was Macaulay Culkin as an adult redoing the Home Alone, but with the help of Google.
Yeah, that was brilliant. They did.
It was brilliant. And her, so she makes candles. She is the president and grand poobah and producer and creator and art director of Aurum Naturals, AURUM, Aurum Naturals, and it's a candle company. She makes these candles that are just amazing.
Well, they're the best candles in the world.
They are the best.
There's
candles.
a reason why when Google said we need holiday candles for this commercial we're staging, they got candles from Aurum Naturals. These candles, they're beeswax candles. They're not made from petroleum products, and beeswax. If you've never had a beeswax candle, burns clean, and it burns forever. It just steady,
it smells
unflickering.
Like honey. It smells like honey. It's
it's got a slight
really
honey
great.
scent.
It's great. So anyway, a couple of these taper candles that were twisty and kind of like a dark green color were in the Macaulay Culkin commercial for Google that came out a few years ago. And so I passed that around recently on Facebook, but it's really adorable. It's just adorable that her candles made it in that commercial.
Yes. In fact, in the show notes for the show, I did include a link to Aurum Naturals, Aurum-Naturals, AURUM. So that is there. If you are stuck for last-minute Christmas gifts, and you've only got 2 weeks, so I would do this ASAP. If you go to Aurum Naturals, you could order candles, have them sent directly to somebody that you want to send a gift to. Highly recommended. Jennifer in the chat incidentally says, I am now burning the candle you gave me yesterday. I have to admit
nice.
that wasn't an Aurum Naturals candle. It was a small gift that we distributed, but
good. I hope you like it.
But it is super sweet that you are burning that.
Yeah,
very, very nice.
Yeah, I can't reveal what I gave out last night because
Chris. Well, no, because
I'll
we
do
have
that
more
in January.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there's more to come.
Yeah.
Christopher Smith in the chat says, I'm probably burning murder cancer candles from Walmart. See, that is the difference between candles from Aurum Naturals and candles made from, and we're pro-petroleum. You know we are supporters of Alex Epstein, supporters of the use of fossil fuels. They just don't make good candles. No, you can't beat a beeswax candle. So, yes, Aurum Naturals for the holidays. That's also in our What's Up list of recommended gifts. The other place to go, of course, is Cordair.com, Quent
Yes.
Cordair Fine Art.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I do believe they still have some calendars available.
They were running low,
But they
so
are
check
running
them out.
low, so just, get it right on that. And Christopher says they're cheap candles is my point, and he's also testing the algorithm.
Yeah, apparently if you murder candles, they allow it. Now, if you said, I want to murder Bernie,
candles.
would they wait to find out which Bernie you wanted to murder? It's complicated. That's the answer to everything philosophical. It's complicated.
Santa and his algorithm, making sure that we're all nice.
Yes. So naturally, I couldn't resist talking about Germany entering the war. The Soviets are declaring our complete depravity because of all the nudity and other decadence going on. How that relates to what's going on today in Russia, I still think of it as Soviet Russia as long as Putin is running the place.
Yes.
And King Edward VIII abdicating the throne for love. Bernie Madoff is arrested, which to me just means justice happens. We had the recent conviction of Balwani and Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos. These big frauds eventually are exposed. And the real question that I have, will SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, Sam Fried-Bankman, whatever SBF stands for, now everybody just uses the acronym. This guy who has now lost billions and billions and billions of dollars of his investors' money, is he going to meet the same end as Bernie Madoff? He lost a similar amount of money, maybe a quarter of what Madoff did, but billions of dollars. It's apparently complete fraud that was responsible for it, as he was taking money out of the trading exchange where people had put their money and putting it into his investment company. And yet he's running around, he's going on TV shows, he's giving interviews, he's talking to different podcast hosts. I want to see what's going to happen with that, because again, my point is justice is a thing. And what makes this one interesting is, SBF is the most prominent proponent these days, other than the philosopher who started it. What's his name from England? Now I forget the man behind the effective altruism. Anyway, he's the biggest celebrity right now in the effective altruism movement because he's presumably given tons and tons of money away, believes in the whole reason to become rich is to give it away. What's going to happen when this guy goes down? Will it make more and more people question EA, question effective altruism? That's already been happening. If you follow, for example, Astral Codex 10 or Slate Star Codex, whichever name you still give to Scott Alexander's work, he lists all the people who are, and people who were within the movement or people peripheral to the movement, they're questioning it. They're questioning it. There's
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Peter
McCaskill?
Singer and
William McCaskill. Peter Singer and William McCaskill. Yes. Singer is the philosophy. McCaskill is also a philosopher. Singer is the utilitarian. Singer is the one who said, no, you should give it all away. Everything you have, you should give away. You should not be wealthier. You should not be more comfortable. You should not be in a better state than anybody else on the planet. And McCaskill came along and said, well, but if you just live like Diogenes, if you just live in a bell or a sewer pipe, you're not going to do anybody any good. And so he came up with this idea of effective altruism. You do need to be rich and successful because that's when you can give it all away. And you don't give it all away just as much as you can give away without you being able to continue to be rich and successful. So you have more to give away. And it's actually a clever argument to those people who used to say, well, if you taxed the rich at 100%, it would help the poor for 11 minutes. And then, McCaskill's argument is, well, nobody ever said that. Everybody always knew. No, you tax them the most you can and have them still continue to produce. Very Atlas Shrugged, how much can we squeeze out of the producers?
Well, that's very much what, China's Communist Party is doing right now.
Right.
That's their game plan. And
yes.
But I mean that's the game plan of any mixed economy. That's the game plan of our politicians here in the United States of America. So
yes.
Yeah.
Now I like to celebrate. I'm not going to put a noun there. I just like to celebrate. But I do. The point is, even the bad things in the world, I like to celebrate their antipodes, their opposites, the solutions, the resolutions. When Bernie Madoff is caught for billions of dollars in fraud, the great thing about it to me is, oh yeah, this guy got caught. And he's the great example we talk about because he's been interviewed several times and explained, I wasn't happy with all that money. I wasn't happy as a criminal. I wasn't happy looking in the mirror every morning and seeing that I was the bad guy. I wasn't happy worrying, looking over my shoulder for when I was finally going to get caught. I'm happier now that I'm in jail. He wasn't happy to be in jail, but it was even worse being the bad guy. And not just because of moral guilt, although that's an element of it, but there's also that thing of looking over your shoulder all the time, of approaching every relationship as if you are John Gotti, as if you are Al Capone, as if you are the one who needs to have at least your metaphorical guns pointed at everybody around you. That's no way to live. Even the people who would say they were happy, when I look at the grin on Epstein's face, pictures of him and Donald Trump and Bill Clinton standing there, God only knows where they were headed. I don't see a happy man. I don't see joy.
No.
I see pleasure in the moment, but mostly I see a guy who's happy that he's getting away with something. That's no way to live.
Yeah.
So when I think of war, when I think of Germany declaring war, when I think of Russia declaring our decadence, and Putin now, through his his philosopher-in-chief declaring that Russia is the proponent of Western civilization and that American and European Western civilization is actually a corruption. And I think back to 1969 when this clown here says, oh, Calcutta is a sign that the West is going downhill. I think of Ayn Rand's essay, The Roots of War.
Yes, great essay.
Yes. So I'm going to read a brief excerpt from that.
Ooh.
Because it so much applies to our situation with with Putin's Russia today, as well as other hotspots around the world. The North Korean situation has not been resolved. And who knows what's next with the Middle East. And Ayn Rand wrote in The Roots of War, link is in the show notes for you to read the full essay. But she said, it is true that nuclear weapons, how many times are we hearing this about Russia today? Nuclear weapons change the calculation. It is true that nuclear weapons have made wars too horrible to contemplate. But it makes no difference to a man whether he is killed by a nuclear bomb or a dynamite bomb or an old-fashioned club. Nor does it matter the number of other victims or the scale of the destruction. Nor does that make any difference to him. And there is something obscene in the attitude of those who regard horror as a matter of numbers, and who are willing to send a small group of youths to die for the tribe, but scream against the danger to the tribe itself. And more, who are willing to condone the slaughter of defenseless victims, but march in protest against the wars between the well-armed. So long as men are subjugated by force, they will fight back and use any weapons available. If a man is led to a Nazi gas chamber or a Soviet firing squad, with no voices raised to defend him, would he feel any love or concern for the survival of mankind? Or would he be more justified in feeling that a cannibalistic mankind, which tolerates dictatorships, does not deserve to survive? If nuclear weapons are a dreadful threat, and mankind cannot afford war any longer, then mankind cannot afford statism any longer. Let no man of good will take it upon his conscience to advocate the rule of force, outside or inside his own country. Let all those who are actually concerned with peace, those who do love man and do care about his survival, realize that if war is ever to be outlawed, it is the use of force that has to be outlawed. Mm-hmm. The roots of war.
Oh, there's more?
No, this is, in relation to this, Ayn Rand talks in her definition of values. She says, it is only an ultimate goal and end in itself that makes the existence of values possible. Metaphysically, life is the only phenomenon which is an end in itself, a value gained and kept by a constant process of action. Epistemologically, the concept of value is genetically dependent upon from and derived from the antecedent concept of life. To speak of value as apart from life is worse than a contradiction in terms. It is only the concept of life which makes the concept of value possible. Mm. And this always takes me to chapter 11 of Anthem.
Yeah.
I think, excuse me, let me go back to the start of the chapter. I am, I think, I will. My hands, my spirit, my sky, my forest, this earth of mine. What must I say besides? These are the words. This is the answer. I stand here on the summit of the mountain. I lift my head and I spread my arms. This, my body and spirit. This is the end of the quest. I wished to know the meaning of things. I am the meaning. I wished to find a warrant for being. I need no warrant for being and no word of sanction upon my being. I am the warrant and the sanction. You know, this understanding, unquote, this understanding of life as an end in itself. And that has to mean individual lives, because it's only individuals who experience anything as a value. This understanding is the answer to war. It is the answer to anybody who would charge the enjoyment, the pleasures of life, including plays that may feature nudity and any other celebrations. This is the answer to those who would charge us with decadence. And it's the reason why I celebrate important people and their birthdays every week. It's why I celebrate these holidays, these opportunities to consider the values in our lives and capitalize on them. So what's going on in the chat before we wrap up?
Well, first of all, I just got to say that was a beautiful reading. Robert, anytime you read Ayn Rand, I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
And, yesterday we were on Zoom with, because we are donors of the Ayn Rand Institute, and they released an never before heard Q&A from 1979 that took place in Ayn Rand's living room in New York. And she was older, and it was just the gosh darn all best thing ever. And they didn't allow us to record or anything like that. But it was truly great. I think in the future, as soon as they can get all the copyright issues resolved and everything, that they're going to release it, or maybe even have it again for people to listen to.
Yeah, when that one comes out publicly, I'll definitely share it.
Yes.
But it sounds like it might take some time.
Yeah, but it was so good.
It was.
She was so considerate and so thoughtful and so charming, having people in her living room. And after they did the Q&A, they they had sandwiches and coffee, as one does with Ayn Rand. And it was just so adorable and so lovely. And you could just see she was just sparkling with values. And she was so ready to give her reasons for why she thought the things that she thought, and come up with amazing answers to people's questions that were thorough and essentialized. And it really brought me back to her method of thinking. I mean, she held on to that method of thinking all of her life, and that just really impresses me the most about her. But not just her method of thinking, her method of dealing with other people, her method of dealing with herself, her general approach and her sense of life. It was all wrapped up in this Q&A that we had never heard before, and she discussed things that we hadn't heard her discuss.
Yeah. It's interesting because you saw some of that in her live speeches, Ford Hall Forum, the moratorium on brains, and those were pre-written in advance. She always wrote her comments out in advance, but you had Q&As afterwards, and she was answering on the fly, and she was always on her game. And Larry Peacock made that point right up until the end. She had her wits about her. She was sharp. But to hear it in a more casual setting and discussing very deep issues, but in a very casual, friendly way.
Yeah.
And this was 2.5 years before she passed away. She was fairly old and so sharp.
Yes.
But you're right, the charming aspect really comes out. That's what really pops out is, Ayn Rand in her home, in her element, with people she liked. And she gave them a introduction to the session at the beginning and told them that, yes, this is, I want you to forget about the tape recorder. They were just recording it so that friends of theirs who were on the road would be able to hear the session. And, completely forget that we're recording this. This is just people in my home.
The one thing that really strikes me about her is her extremely genuine and real authenticity and earnestness. She was extremely earnest, and when she talked about something, she was never flippant or cynical or caustic or always looking for catharsis, like a lot of, that's a lot in our culture, and that's something that, I've struggled with in my past in terms of trying to be more earnest about things and taking ideas seriously, but having a general approach that Ayn Rand has always had, which is you can understand anything that you put your mind to. There are answers to these questions out there, and if there are no answers yet, there will be in the future. And it's this kind of optimistic view and this optimistic sincerity and earnestness that she held on to. And it's just lovely to hear. I mean, it's just so beautiful.
I've held whole discussions on the concept of earnestness. We've done whole shows with that in the title. And earnestness is more than honesty and sincerity. And it's more than kindness and benevolence. It's that very direct, authentic, no walls, no second thoughts about what you say, no worrying about what the other person thinks, just being who you are. It's a unique kind of integrity.
Yeah.
It's the kind of integrity Martha Beck talks about in her book, The Way of Integrity.
Right.
And, Leonard Peacock mentioned that in the essay, My 30 Years with Ayn Rand, that when you were with her, it was always her, she was always herself. But just saying that, makes it sound like, well, she was honest and she was upfront and she didn't hold back. But it was more than that. It was that she was never second-guessing herself. She was never thinking, well, how is what I'm going to say being received? She was gracious and she was polite, but she had manners as a practice, not as something, again, where she kind of second-guessed and thought, well, here's how I should behave myself, and here's the way I want to make this point. And No, you always had the impression that you were reaching her mind, that
And
you were reaching
she-
the person.
She always gave you her best, or the people who were asking her questions, she always gave her best. She didn't dumb it down or water it down and say, well, I would say this to you, but I know you can't handle it. No.
Yeah, I don't even think that kind of thing came up for her.
No.
It's so good to see, or so good to hear on this session. So that
Yeah.
was fun. Again, if that was released to the public above and beyond Ayn Rand Institute members, I'll be sure to share that if I see it, because it is so good.
And if you want to become a member of ARI, you can for, just for a few dollars a month or whatever it is. I forget, but it's pretty easy to do. And if you want to, you can also reach out to them and say, I would like to have that replayed so I can listen to it, please, because they did mention replaying it in the future for donors.
Well, good. Yeah, I am looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So, real quick, my Post-it note for the week says, first things first, front load. I once did a Post-it note that said first things first, because my Post-it notes are things I have to remind myself of. So I'll put this up for the next 7 days, the next week, probably longer than that. But this one in particular is because there are 14 days until Christmas, and I've got a few things that I still need to do for the holidays. And reminding yourself first things first, figure of speech, but reminding yourself, no, I need to do the first things first. Often the thing that you feel the most resistance to doing is the best thing to knock out first.
Or at least take a few steps to gain momentum on it.
Take action, yes, get that process started. So I'm reminding myself to front load, to put the urgent things in first and the things that I find most resistance to first, and knock them out. That's my note to myself. If you want to put up a note like that to yourself too, I love it. I love me some Post-it notes. So that is that. As far as my homework for the week, same as it's been, which is all about Christmas and morning posts and inspirational posts. If you're not already on my Twitter feed, twitter.com/Robert Nasir, follow me and you will see Monday through Friday every morning an inspirational post posted before 6 a.m., which was part of my commitment to wake up early every morning and get my morning routine started. So that is still happening as well.
I also just want to give a shout out to anybody out there who may be listening. And by the way, we have almost 300 subscribers to our channel.
But we need more.
And I know people were like, well, you only got 300 subscribers.
Yep.
Why do you even bother? It's because we know you guys out there. We know the kind of goodness that's out there that you guys have. And we want to give our best, and we want to see all boats rise, and we like you, and we like doing this. We like putting our ideas out there. It's
Yes.
it's quite satisfying to put your ideas out there into the world for all to see for hopefully a long time.
Well, I think it'll be like the fountainhead. It starts as a trickle, and then it grows a little bit, and then suddenly it breaks loose like a dam opening up, and you could be a part of that.
We are ready for that.
You could be a part of that. Like and share. Folks have said, I know you've got a Patreon.
And subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, we're only a handful of subscribers away to 300. So
folks have said, I know you've got a Patreon, so I could become a patron, and you got a PayPal account. Both of those are available at robertnasir.com. But why don't you have Super Chat? You have Super Chat when you do shows on the Ayn Rand Center UK. That's cool. And like Yaron Brook has Super Chat on his shows, and he collects hundreds of dollars every time he talks. Why don't you have that? And the answer is because we need you to get us to 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
So like and share. If there's somebody you think might be remotely interested, especially within the objectivist community, you would think, well, I don't know if Robert and Amy are everybody's cup of tea, but at least objectivists might be interested in what they've got to say. Mm-hmm. So feel free, like and share the show.
Yeah.
If you want to support us directly, again, Patreon, PayPal at robertnasir.com. Feel free to sign up. Special shout out to one of our top fans and somebody who shared our celebration last night. For that, thank you for he upped his subscription.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And thank you. Very much appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
As well.
And I just want to give a shout out to anybody who is struggling right now during the holidays. I know. It's like, it's for me anyway. When as the days pass, the years pass, and here's another Christmas. It's important give yourself the opportunity and the kindness and the gentleness to feel however you want to feel about Christmas, perhaps loved ones that you've lost, expectations for yourself about, how much do you want to spend, how much time do you want to devote to Christmas. I see Christmas as more of like yet another Ayn Rand's birthday or a values day, kind of giving myself little treats here and there and doing things that are really, really fun. I'm getting my alto saxophone out again, and I'm going to be playing at my work.
We will be posting videos.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm doing a lot of fun things, but at the same time, I'm also, in a point, just remembering sad things and
especially people who aren't with us anymore.
Yeah, wishing people who have passed were here. And yeah, so I just want to say, be kind to yourself, be gentle to yourself, and be good to yourself during this time.
Be good to your fine selves.
It's okay to do whatever you want to do. Just know that, and know that I know that.
Yep. And if you find holidays a source of frustration, look up Weekends and Holidays with Amy and Robert Nasir. You'll find a show all about how to make sure the holidays are no burden, no guilt, no duty, all good all the time. Finally, if you look in the show notes for the episode on both YouTube and Facebook, you'll see a link to what we've been listening to lately, including the 2 shows that I did earlier this week, a couple of music-related items. But I'm going to wrap it up there. We've got an important appointment, which is why we started early. Thank you so much to those of you who opted to join us live.
Yes.
It's always fun, especially the comments in the chat, seeing y'all feedback to us. For those of you who listen later as well, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. You're the best. And as always, we wish you all of the success that you so richly deserve, especially at this time of the year. As Avi says, if you should have goodwill toward anybody, and you should have goodwill toward yourself. Be good to yourselves. Take care of yourselves. We send our love out to each and every one of you, except that one guy. You know who you are.
I'm sure that one guy isn't listening.
No, he listens just out of spite.
This one guy is just Robert's imagination.
You never want to send love to everybody. That would be unconditional love. That would be
promiscuous.
Unfastidious love.
Yeah, that would just be...
And besides, there is one guy out there who I ain't sending the love to. But you're right, it's probably not anybody who's listening right now. You know what I mean, and I mean you listening right now. Thank you so much for joining us. And finally, yes, we wish you a Merry Christmas. Moo